Everybody, this is your Under the Weather Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with our weekly lecture series. This lecture is sponsored by David J. And the name of the lecture is Exploiting Queenside Expansion. And I don't want you to be confused, so I'm going to read the sponsor message. But it's not you Queenside expand and then you're the best. It's the other way around. It's exploiting when somebody else Queenside expands, confusing the audience. And of course, the games were chosen to meet the criteria of the lecture, which doesn't necessarily mean that Queenside expansion is always bad. However, in this lecture, it's always bad. Okay, the message from the sponsor is, I want to learn how to punish A6, B5, B4 advances when playing as white, and A3, B4, B5 advances when I'm playing black. Teach us the ways. Okay. And what I wanted to do before I got any games in my head, when I saw the lecture topic, was basically do kingside attacks on the other side of the board, which sort of thwart the ability of the other player who's expanding on the queen side because they're not spending enough time defending their king. So I have 5 games to show you if we can get to them. The first 3 are for black. White is expanding on the queen side and black is punishing white. And then the next 2 games are for white, where black is expanding on the queen side and white is punishing black. Of course, the point of view of whoever our hero is on the bottom. So you can see black is on the bottom, so we're rooting for the black pieces. And this means that white's going to do some kind of queenside expansion. Okay, first game is Sandro Mareco, who's from South America, I believe, against Surya Ganguly, Indian Grandmaster. And Ganguly used to be, or possibly currently is, second to Vishy Anand in his World Championship matches, mainly with Carlsen, but he played other people World Championship matches too. Hard to believe. Okay, so as recommended by the sponsor, we're going to look at some kind of gioco piano Italian games where white's expanding on the queen side and see how black punishes it. Now, this game has extensive notes, dozens. And when I put a game in for a lecture, I get rid of all the notes and I just say what I want to say. But if you want to analyze this game later, preferably with an engine, feel free to do so. This game is super complicated, and when it's super complicated, then we can get the desired results and not have boring draws. Okay, castles. It's funny. Castles is sort of a new move. Used to be, for like 100 years, people played C3 and D4, or they played C3 and D3, or they played D3. But now castles is probably the most common. Okay, knight F6, D3, defending the pawn. Otherwise, black is going to take the pawn. Castles. And now the point of the lecture, white's going to start advancing on the queen side. D6, B4. Black plays the engine-approved bishop B6, and white plays A4. And our sponsor is like, why is white doing this? I want something I can do. Okay, well, first of all, white's threatening A5. So typically, in this position, black either plays a5 or a6. Now, one of the differences between strong grandmasters, especially ones who have prepared Anand for the world championship, god damn, is they know a lot of theory and they have a lot of preparation. When I go down to the lower rated sections in these open tournaments that I sometimes go to, and the players are rated 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, like most of you, the person with black is like, okay, I can play a5 or a6 here. And then they make a decision and they play one of them. And then I guess if the players are even lower rated, they don't even see that a5 wins a piece. So they just make some other move and then a5 wins a piece. The top players in the world, they don't go, should I play a5 or a6 here? They already know which move they're going to play, and they have deep preparation. Okay, Ganguly played a5. Typically, in such situations, which I faced in the Ruy Lopez with black, I also play a5 instead of a6. And in the Carol Khan, when it's the other side of the board and it's an advanced variation, I usually play h5 instead of h6. So I guess that's my style, is to move my pawn 2 squares instead of 1. Okay, now in this position, white's pawn is attacked, and taking on a5 would give white an isolated pawn. White is trying to gain space, so white always plays b5. And now black does a maneuver that I like a lot, which is knight e7, hopefully going to g6. For reasons I can't explain, although I actually can explain, but the explanation's really boring. I like my knights on g6 and f6. And I mean, even though I'm barely a grandmaster, my knights are on f6 and g6 pretty often, considering, in different openings. Now, black has 2 other things to do, which you're going to see in the games that we're presenting this lecture. Sometimes black plays c6, sometimes black plays d5, and sometimes black plays both. So black has 3 things they might do: c6, d5, and knight g6. And occasionally they do all of them. Okay, bishop e3. So the question is, does black mind having his pawn structure destroyed? The answer is yes. So black plays c6. The queen defends the bishop, so the pawn structure doesn't get destroyed. And we can play d5 later. d5 looks pretty good. When somebody attacks on the flank, the old adage is to counterattack in the center. So, makes sense. Rook e1. Bishop goes back to c7. Black decides, if white's going to push the pawns on the queen's side, I'm going to play in the center and the king's side, so I don't want to trade pieces. I want pieces on the board so I can attack later. And if this diagonal ever gets open, then black's going to have a nice bishop to attack with. Knight bd2, d5, bishop goes back, and knight g6. So black actually did all 3 things that I said. Knight g6, d5, and c6. And black's position looks very reasonable. Nice center, nice knights on g6 and f6. Maybe that's just me who likes that. Okay, white played h3, stopping all of black's pieces from going to g4. There's no knight g4. There's no bishop g4. h6, stopping white from doing the same thing. Queen c2. Bishop d7. Bishop d7 actually threatens the pawn on b5. Rook b1. And queen c8. And so when black played bishop d7, he was thinking, I'm going to play queen c8, and I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to win brilliantly, and then in a few years, Grandmaster Finegold will show this game in a lecture. That's exactly what he was thinking. I know, because I talked to Ganguly, and he said, I was thinking you, Ben. I knew you would show this game in a lecture. Maybe that didn't happen. Maybe I imagined that. Maybe that's because I'm sick, so I'm like imagining stuff. Okay, so there's two reasons you sacrifice. One is you figured it all out, engine approved, calculated, and it's good for you. The other is you can't calculate it, but your gut tells you it has to be good. And typically, my students don't have the gut that I have. Okay, and hopefully you found that funny. Although I've been losing weight recently, so I guess that's why my chest is no good. I'm losing my gut. For those of you who are interested, which is very few of you, in the last year, I've lost 50 pounds. And I'm still losing weight. So then I'll have no gut, and then, I'll be falling on my ass or something, because I got nothing. Okay, so Ganguly, he's like, I'm going to mate you because David J wanted to know what to do against Queenside expansion, and I'm going to show by attacking on the king side while white is, fluttering on the queen side. Knight f1, typical maneuver. White likes to play knight g3, just like black likes to play knight g6. Rook to d8, putting the rook in the center. Knight g3. And Ganguly looked at his watch to find out what time it was. And it was time to play bishop e6, defending his center. And I like black in this position because a lot of the pieces are on the same squares, but black has a better center. Black has pawns on e5 and d5. White's queenside expansion really isn't going anywhere. Bishop back to d2, and that opens up the line for the rook, so it puts some pressure on the e pawn. And finally, he sacrifices on h3. Of course, if black never sacrificed, probably the position's equal. Now, the position's too complicated, and typically, I've noticed in tournament games, people don't defend as well as they attack. You know who does defend well is engines. So if you're analyzing a middle game with an engine and you're like, this sacrifice looks interesting. The engine's like, no, it's not interesting. That sacrifice loses. Then you're like, oh, well, I guess it's not interesting. But actually, it only loses against the engine. Against humans, it could do really well. And I'm not saying the engine doesn't like this move, but typically they don't. Okay, so white traded on c6 before taking the bishop, opening up the b file for the rook. Okay, and black's going to start attacking. Black's going to play knight g4 and knight h4 and checkmate everywhere. Okay, so white played rook b7, attacking the bishop, confusing the audience. White's getting counterplay on the queen side. Black doesn't mind because black's trying to checkmate white. Okay, now here, black played knight g4 and said, why don't you take my bishop? So white didn't take the bishop, but if he does, then we play knight h4, threatening queen g2 mate with advantage. How do you stop queen g2 mate? not easy. The only way that I see is knight takes knight, and then the knight's not defending h2 anymore, so we have this mate. Now let's go back, and I'm going to show you why Ganguly is better than you. Okay, in this position, black played bishop e6 instead of sacrificing. Then after bishop d2, then he sacrificed. And you guys are furrowing your brow in a vain attempt to understand the situation. And now, as we continue, notice if the bishop was on e3, there's no queen takes f2 mate, because the queen defends f2 and the bishop defends f2. Everybody's defending f2. But after bishop d2, nothing's defending f2, so now this attack works. So Ganguly, not as bad as you thought he was. Okay, white played bishop c1, defending f2. No queen takes f2 checkmate for black. Okay, now black played a move you would all play except for one thing. And I'm reasonably certain this is Ganguly's favorite game of all time that he played. He played a move nobody would ever think of. That move is rook a7, confusing the sponsor. And the point of rook a7, let's see, did he actually take it so we can see the point? Oh, okay, he took it. So, okay. So the point of rook a7 is when white takes the rook, now we play bishop b6. In this position, if we play bishop b6, white takes it. So he played rook a7, white said, thanks for the rook, and black played bishop b6. And black doesn't care about this rook. Black cares about checkmating white. Now, if it was black's turn to move, black would play queen takes g3 check and win all of white's pieces and mate him with advantage. And in the analysis of the game, Ganguly denotes a lot of time to like rook takes bishop and stuff like that. Okay, that's for your engine, not for you. Okay, so now that's looking annoying. Now, if you sponsored a lecture and you were like, Ben, what do I do against the Queenside expansion? Then you would be very happy to see black is trying to checkmate white, and that white's rook on a7 basically has nothing to do with the game. And we have to block that bishop on b6. So white played d4, which makes a lot of sense. Then Ganguly has another 1,000 pages of annotations, and then says e takes d is the best move. Now he wants to play d3, which attacks the queen and unleashes this giant threat again. Takes, and then bishop takes rook. And Ganguly wrote he didn't want to play bishop takes rook. He wanted to play bishop takes d4. And then after knight takes d4, knight h4. And Ganguly said after analyzing for a long time, I concluded bishop takes rook was the best move. And I think the engine agrees. Okay, and what black wants to do is very funny. Black just wants to take this, then when the knight takes, then knight h4. Now in this position, black's not down a lot of material because black took that rook back. So black has 2 pawns for a piece, plus this attack against the white king. Bishop e3. Now, this is the kind of position that you see in a puzzle, but you don't see in a real game, except this is a real game. In a puzzle, the answer is bishop takes d4, because all of white's pieces are defending d4, and it's a puzzle. In a real game, you never get to play bishop takes d4, because that's defended twice. And yet, bishop takes d4, because the knight is defending h4, so knight h4 is coming, and if the bishop takes, knight f4 is coming. If you're a fan of Tombstone, hell's coming with it. He played queen d3, keeping his bishop and knight where they were. Bishop takes e3. You can't take with the pawn because your knights are all hanging. You can't take with the queen because your queen's all hanging. Okay, so that's why I get paid a lot of money to teach chess. So they took with the rook. Now instead of saying, why do you take with the rook? Now you know. Knight h4. Threatening queen g2 mate with advantage. If knight takes h4, as we've seen previously, then black gives checkmate. Okay, so white played... Oh, I guess white resigned. Yeah, resigning was a good idea. If you play the obvious move, queen f1, because that's mate, and I don't want to get mated, so queen f1 is the obvious move. Then I take with check, and your king is trapped by your queen. Truth hurts. So after knight h4, white resigned. In the final position, finally, black is close to material equality, but the checkmate was what was important. And I've never played a game like that, but I'm sure Ganguly is pretty happy. If I ever meet Ganguly, which is unlikely, although I might meet him in 2 weeks. I don't know if my sponsor knows this. My sponsor is watching right now. And he's not my AA sponsor. He's a chess lecture sponsor. Although he might be an AA sponsor. In 2 weeks, although for you guys in like 2 days, guys that are watching on YouTube after the fact, I'm going to be in Saudi Arabia at the Esports World Cup. And I guess there's a very small chance that Ganguly will be there, I guess, because there's a lot of chess, a lot of good chess players. And if he's there, I can tell him what a great game this was. Then I can report back to you guys on my stream. Okay, well, that took half the lecture time, so I'm the worst lecturer. I'm the worst. Try to go faster, but I can't do it. Okay, another game played by an Indian grandmaster, Pentala Harikrishna. Pentala Harikrishna played one of my ex-wives in a simul. I don't remember which ex-wife it was, but it was one of them. There are too many to count. And my wife lost, so we were married at the time, and since my wife lost to Harikrishna, we're no longer married. And I can tell you my current wife, Karen, she's never lost to Harikrishna. So, now, the player with white, I can't pronounce his first name or his last name, so you know he's good. Bartlomiej Macieja from Poland, and I played him once in Michigan, and he was completely winning. He was the most winning anybody's ever been winning, and then on move like 39 or 40 with no time on his clock, he blundered a rook. Then when he blundered a rook, I was barely winning. I mean, he blundered a rook for nothing. I just took a rook. Then it was close, but I was winning. And he was European champion a few years ago. That was his greatest success. European individual champion. Okay, he has white. We'll go quickly in the opening, since I'm going too slowly. Okay, and this should look familiar to you. because this is the same position. We just transposed. Okay, and in the previous game, Mareco played bishop e3, and Macieja played bishop g5. Macieja, although I'm pronouncing his name wrong, so if you're Polish, I apologize. In fact, you're probably like, which grandmaster is he talking about? It's Macieja. He's famous for going into huge thinks, 30, 45 minutes in one move. Okay, knight g6, as in the last game. Knight h4. Knight h4 is an important move because if black plays h6, then what's white doing? White doesn't really have a good response. So white plays knight h4. Now h6, a little suspicious. Okay, then Macieja wins. Okay, so Harikrishna takes on h4. And now it looks like it's a perpetual pin. It looks like the pin's going to last forever. But it doesn't, because he plays g5. And he plays on the king side. See, white's playing on the queen side with b4, a4, b5. So black plays on the king side with h6, g5, h5. Now black's threatening to win with h4, winning a bishop. Queen d2, threatening the g5 pawn with check. Knight h7. Once again, black is threatening h4. Queen f6. Here comes the attack. Black plays king h8 because black wants to play f5. If black plays f5 here, the computer won't let me. It puts it back on f7 because it's illegal. Bishop's really far away, but it still pins the pawn. Bishop c5, don't want to mess up your pawn structure. And f5. So white's playing on the queen side with his pawns, with his knight on c4, and black is playing on the king side. Takes, d4, attacking in the center. Bishop b4 attacks the queen. And this bishop just isn't very good. In fact, none of white's pieces are very good. Black's pieces are good. Never play f3, but knight e4 was going to be annoying. Black controls the d5 square. Yeah, and black's position is just excellent. White wins a pawn, very dangerous, take that pawn. Black plays rook takes, confusing white. I think knight takes a5 is a tactical error, but I think white's position's very bad because this knight on d5 is a monster, and this knight on c4, it can't go anywhere. Although he tried to go somewhere. But the bishop is defending the knight via x-ray, so we take the bishop. Now we have two pieces for a rook. Then we keep checkmating white. Little fork. Trying to trap the knight on b1. Queen h7 is a really nice move. It puts pressure here, and it defends the knight. Queen e1, attacking the knight again. Takes. White's king is going to be too exposed. Plays g3. If he takes, then I take. And your king is not going to survive. In fact, my rook and queen can just win your queen. I don't even have to calculate. I can pre-move here. I can pre-move here. I can pre-move there. No calculation necessary. That's my specialty. When there's no calculation, just check, check, take the queen. Okay, so he played g3, queen d3, threatening queen f3 check, knight d2. Black's up a piece. White's king is getting mated. White resigned. So that was a little more straightforward. Black played h6, g5, h5, f5, rawr, g4, g takes h. And White said, boy, my king's not very good. And White's queenside play never really got anywhere, good. Okay, we'll skip one of the games because I want to show 2 white games and 2 black games. This is the game Fischer-Larsen. Fischer played Larsen a lot. This is a famous game basically because of my 60 memorable games. This game was featured. This game was played in 1958. So in the Interzonal, that means Fischer was 15. And Fischer at 15 was really good. Okay, they played Sicilian Dragon, Yugoslav attack, complicated. Okay, knight takes knight is not very theoretical, but this game was played in 1958. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you what was theoretical in 1958. So I don't know. But knight takes knight isn't theoretical now. Probably because of this game. Okay, and now Black's going to play b5, a5, b4, a4. And our sponsor said, what do I do about that? And the answer is h4, h5, checkmate. Always play king b1. Important rule. Knight d5. Black doubles rooks on the c file, or tries to, and pushes his queenside pawns. Both sides checkmate each other. It's the most fun you can have. Whose attack is first? g5. Fischer says me. Okay, we can't give our knight away. And there's some tricks with queen here and bait. Let me show you a trick that I'm not saying it's good play, but you guys will enjoy it. I'm here for you guys. Let's move our knight. Queen h2, a4, queen h8 check with advantage. And then checkmate. So both sides get mated. Larsen didn't like that. So Larsen blocked the rook with knight h5. Now, even though I wouldn't be born for 11 years after this game, Fischer knew always sack the exchange. Rook takes h5. And then g6. And we have this nice attack on the diagonal, which we've seen before. e5, trying to get rid of the white bishop. Takes. And then bishop e3, threatening queen takes d6 check. d5, takes, d6, threatening the rook. Bishop g5, threatening the rook again. It doesn't matter what he plays. White's attack is crashing through. White has d7 and bishop takes and queen h6 check. Probably Larsen thought Fischer would play queen check, then he could block with the queen, which still looks winning for white to me. But he played d7, so Larsen's queen can't get over there. And then he resigned because if he plays bishop e7, this is a funny checkmate. That's why the sponsor pays top dollar. He wants to see cool checkmates. And if you don't like that checkmate and you play king g7, man, the truth hurts. Better to get checkmated than to suffer through this. So after queen d6 check, Larsen resigned. In my opinion, Larsen resigned a little late. But Fischer was 15. And this will be confusing to the sponsor and to all you guys watching. A long time ago, and 1958 was a long time ago, kids were not good at chess. I know that doesn't make any sense, but kids are good at chess now. In 1958, 15-year-olds weren't good. So I can see resigning late because your opponent's a kid, they're probably bad. But Fischer was the exception. There was always exceptions. But nowadays, adults aren't good and kids are good, but that's different. 1950s, kids didn't play in tournaments and win them and, beat masters and grandmasters. You didn't see any of that. Just Fischer. Fischer was pretty good. Okay, last but not least, more Fischer. This is the U.S. Championship, 66-67, against Anthony Saidy. I've played Anthony Saidy. Is he still alive? I'm going to look it up. If he's alive, he's about 90. He is alive. Go Saidy, and he's 88. He was born the same year as my dad. He was born 1 month after my dad. Yeah, I've played Saidy, and he was old when I played him. Now he's even older. Okay, so Saidy played in a lot of U.S. championships. He's black and a Sicilian, as recognized by the sponsor. This is a line that I've played with black, queen b6. I've had black in this position. Okay, and white typically plays on the king side, and black typically plays on the queen side with a6, b5. Which is what happens. Everybody's happy. Fischer starts attacking quick before black gets counterplay on the queen side. Saidy plays f5, stopping white from playing f5 and, checkmating him. Problem with black's position after f5 is if black ever takes with the e pawn, this pawn, then the white knight can go to d5. So black doesn't want to play e takes f5 because that's too annoying. So black plays f5 and says, I'm keeping my e pawn, so you can never play knight d5. Takes with the g pawn. If you're asking why didn't he take with the e pawn, I just told you. Rawr. Because then the knight can go to d5, crushing. So he takes with the g pawn, knight d4, threatening e6 pawn, knight d8, defense, pretty good defense. Rook e1, knight g7, Fischer's coming to attack. Knight f7 kicks the queen out. Knight h8, he wants to run away with his king, I guess. And now he gets to play h5. If you take en passant, then you lose your queen. Notice, Fischer attacks every move. Queen h6, rook f3, rook h3, g5, knight d4. And as a consequence, black doesn't have time to play b4 and get counterplay on the queen side. Bishop e2, Fischer's going to take on h5. Knight g6 attacks the queen. b4, finally, like 1,000 moves after playing b5, black gets to play b4. Fischer moves his knight back. h5 is indefensible, so black goes crazy. Fischer sacks a piece. And he says, boy, your king looks pretty open. So black got his counterplay with b4 and forced knight e1, but now his king is too exposed. Rook h6, threatening the knight. Queen e2. White wants to play queen e6 check, winning immediately. Queen h5 is also pretty good. Queen e6 is better. Bishop e4, stopping queen e6. Then we just take the knight. Oh, give me the knight. Check. Check. Now Fischer's up 2 pawns and attacking. Knight f2, good move. White's still up 2 pawns. Now White's threatening queen e6 check and queen takes bishop, which black allowed. Not very good. This is funny. When low-rated players are playing, sometimes this non-existent attack for black will work. But when you look at super GMs, that don't work. It's amazing. Super GMs are so strong. Fischer was already 23 years old. So he was already like, well, my dad played Fischer when Fischer was 20, and he thought Fischer was like 5th in the world. So Fischer was probably 2nd or 3rd best player in the world during this game. And he basically does nothing and stops black's attack. Plays queen e3, rook takes, king h1. That's the end of the attack. No attack. Very simple. And now there's no attack. You're down a piece for nothing. But black did get to play b4. So black got his Sicilian counterplay. But he castled kingside, and his king's on c6. Not very good. There's good, and there's not good. That's not good. Anyway, I want to thank our sponsor again, David J. The name of the lecture is Exploiting Queenside Expansion. And we saw examples, 2 for white, 2 for black, where one side expanded on the queen side, and the other side decided to play for checkmate. And typically, when somebody expands on the flank, you want to counterattack in the center and the other flank and make sure that you have a lot of pieces to do so. Although I don't expect you to play as well as Ganguly, you can try. Man, Ganguly, he was sacking everything. One time I played Ganguly in a tournament in India, and he was going to sack a Jawia. I couldn't believe it. Man, he was playing an old Indian. Okay, I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold. Thanks for watching the lecture. Please like and subscribe. If you want to sponsor a lecture, contact my wife Karen. Her details are in the description of the video. And whatever topic you find interesting, about 95% of topics are acceptable. Some topics we get not acceptable. But usually if they're chess topics, then I'll do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.